Hey there.
Hey guys,
It's Jenny,
I'm Betsy.
and here we are for the tall and the short of it today, Education Conversations. And we gave you guys the poll on Monday, and they picked
Social skills.
social skills. It was overwhelming. So that's what we are going to give you all today. And we have kind of planned out the month, and you'll see that in the graphic that we posted about social skills and how we're going to take you guys through November. And obviously we're not going to be going live on Thanksgiving Day because I'm going to be stuffing my face.
Well, we won't be together. So.
I know we won't be together. But like I said, we'll be stuffing our face that day instead of being on here with you all. So we hope you enjoy that holiday.
Would like to put some resources together that week especially and get those out to you guys so it won't be a full week of nothing.
Sure. Maybe we can do a social story on Thanksgiving.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Okay, so and that's the other piece too, is that throughout the month, on the days we're not live, we're going to be giving tips about social skills, articles about social skills, asking you guys questions about how you handle social skills. We want to get you involved. You need to get interactive here. This isn't just about us talking.
Well, especially because I teach K through 2, and Jenny works with all of our teachers and stuff, but at the same time, guys, I haven't written a social story for middle high school
so we want
in
you
a
to
really
share.
long time. So yes, definitely share with us.
We definitely want you to share anything you have about social skills this month, and feel free, post stuff on our timeline. Do it. We want people sharing resources and questions and thoughts and articles you find. So feel free to do that. That's your timeline too for this. Okay.
And for those parents out there, yes, we are going to be talking a lot about school, but a lot of this pertains to home, and these are things you can do at home too if you have questions about how to make any modifications, how to do things on your own at home. Just let us know. Reach
absolutely.
out. We will be talking about that a little more later in the month, but as we talk about things, you'll just hear us talk a lot about school. We understand these things happen at home as well. So.
Right. Well, and a lot of some of the things we talk about may be some of your parent concerns about school. So that could be something that is helpful for you when you have your next meeting with the school.
Yes.
So, because you're a big part of that case conference committee. Okay, so let's get started. I'm excited. I'm actually really excited about this.
I'm surprised because you were wanting reading. I know
I was kind of really wanting reading.
But this is this is what I love, so I'm surprised you're...
I know, reading's my jam, but I'm excited about this. Now that it's planned out, I'm pretty excited about it. I think we're going to do great. I see there's a couple people on there watching. Say hello to us.
Yes, because we can't see who
for
you
sure,
are.
I don't see who you are, so it would be great to see who's there and who's hanging out with us today. And like I said, feel free to jump in and take part in the conversation whenever. Okay? So, our topic is the why. Reasons that we teach social skills, and we're not saying, that there's reasons you shouldn't. We're just saying we're going to analyze this a little bit more, because before we do anything, we got to analyze the crap out of it, right?
That's all we do. That's all we do, and then we do it during it, and then we do it after.
That is the realm of special ed.
Yep.
Break it down into the tiniest parts we possibly can, and then build us back up. Okay. So, what is social skills, Betsy?
Social skills. It's a very broad topic. It covers, honestly, every aspect of a kid's journey once they walk in the school get on the bus. But social skills and interactions the kids have with each other, with their with their peers, with adults in the building,
one-on-one or in groups. All of those things. And social skills are hard for our kids. Mostly because there's two parts of social skills, right? There's the nonverbal things that we do, our gestures, our tone of
those are the hard. Those are the hard ones. The hardest.
The looks we give.
Yes.
Am I making my angry face?
Yes.
Am I smiling at you? Am I confused? Those things are hard for them to pick up on. And then also the verbal part of social skills.
And I think those are easier for a lot of our kids. However, if sarcasm is woven in there, but also if it's, you say something that has dual meanings, or, so...
Throw that over here to me. You don't really mean throw, right?
Yeah. Or get out of here.
Right.
Get out of here.
Right. Exactly.
That's something, guys, it's overwhelming to think about, because you want your kids to be successful and, have good social skills, but it isn't a quick process.
Not at all.
And,
so when kids without disabilities learn social skills, how do they do that? They do it through watching. They watch, they listen, they observe everything going on. They look at how mommy's face looks. They look at how the teacher is talking to me. Does she have a mean voice? Does she have a nice voice? Is she talking loudly?
What the other kids are doing,
how they're
reacting,
how are, should I get it? Everybody else is getting in line. Do I get in line? Do, those things that we sometimes call the hidden curriculum or the unwritten social rules that we just pick up because that's what happens with kids without disabilities.
Hey, Allison.
Hey, she's here. Allison, you can jump right into this conversation anytime you want. Make some comments about it. We're
social
right now,
skills.
Yes, you're an expert as an SLP.
Why we teach them. Well, and I think a lot of kids learn some of that, we were talking about observing, by watching TV shows. Oh, yeah. That's what that kid did. That's why sometimes you're like, oh, you watch that show because that kid's rude or what, whatever.
Right. Yes.
So it's...
I think sometimes they've learned poor social skills from watching TV shows too. I used to get so infuriated. Some of the students that we worked with would watch, this is going to date me. They would watch a show called That's So Raven. Do you remember that one with Raven?
I didn't watch it, but yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
But she would be so mouthy and rude on that show, and it was like, oh, don't teach that to kids.
Yeah.
So, but kids learn through observation. They learn through repetitively seeing someone act a certain way and then seeing the consequence of how they act, right? So why do kids with disabilities struggle with that? Why do they struggle with observation and seeing the consequence?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why they struggle with that. It depends on maybe their weaker areas, but generalizing, they needed to generalize that behavior or think, oh, it worked here, maybe it could work over in this situation.
Yeah.
But
they're not depending on their issue. Okay, so let's just break it down into the different categories. So we've got 13 categories of disability here in Indiana, right? And so depending on your category of disability, it might be a different approach we need to take with social skills because the reason you're not picking up on social skills is different.
Right.
So let's just take specific learning disability, for instance, right? We've got a lot of kids in the state of Indiana with specific learning disabilities, but they typically don't have issues with a lot of social skills.
No.
So why would that be? Any ideas?
Are you asking me or are you asking
anyone?
Anyone.
Anyone. Kids with specific learning disabilities maybe can't decode their reading, maybe have trouble with reading comprehension, but they read just fine. Maybe they just have trouble with word problems in math, or maybe they're, just struggle with math concepts. But the social piece, they seem to do just fine. They have friends. They play just fine on the playground. They don't typically get into a lot of trouble.
And a lot of times their communication skills are
oral
great,
language usually is very good, unless they have an oral language learning disability, which is a whole nother can of worms. But you know, most kids with specific learning disabilities are going to have pretty good social skills.
Yeah.
That's not typically something we end up writing goals for.
No.
However, let's take, for instance, let's go with a more intense need. Let's say a student who's deaf. They may have issues with social skills. Why? Because they're not able to hear tone of voice. They're not able to communicate their needs and wants as well as other kids. They can't hear directions going on in the classroom as well, or depending on if they're totally deaf or if they have some hearing. You know, it just depends.
Well,
but
yeah,
they may struggle with social skills and need more direct instruction. Because they're not going to pick up on everything due to the loss of that sense. Same thing with blind kids. You know, they can hear everything, but we
they're
can't
going to miss that
see
facial or
all the nonverbal.
That body language,
Yeah, so you can't have a mean face. You can't give a teacher look to a kid who can't see you.
Well, you can, but
it doesn't work. But yeah, so, and they may struggle with peers as well because of not being able to see how they interact and that kind of thing. So there's that. But let's get to some of the big ones. Yeah.
I would say
you pick. Start.
Well, and I would say the one that like is most associated with social skills is autism. More broadly. And we were actually talking, you know, prior to coming on here, and it's been interesting to look because I have never worked in a school without working with her. So we know all of the same kids. And, you know, it's been very interesting to see how some kids that do fall on the spectrum, usually a lot of their social skills are pretty strong and they do pretty well with it, except for those, more of the, we talked about the academic piece or, you know. But it's just been so interesting that just because they have autism, just because they've been diagnosed with that doesn't mean they automatically have poor social skills. However, that is something that you like when you hear that, you do automatically think, okay, is this something I'm going to need to address? Right.
It's common. You'd want to at least double check and make sure. Do they have friends? Are they playing with other kids? Because you're going to see things like parallel play instead of playing together.
And
I mean, especially when they're young.
Yes. And and that is something like, it is important to teach them how to play. You know, and
she does that a lot.
Yeah, we actually do have, I think that I've seen a huge increase in how I have playtime in my room, but I actually call it social skills time. And it's been very interesting over the past year and a half to see my kids, the increase in their play. Like last year, we were intervening so much, and you're just giving them the words like, you know, don't tell me, tell them, and we give them those words to say. And now I would say almost I don't know that we have anyone that plays alone now. And we had kids that preferred that. It wasn't because they were being excluded. It was they were choosing to play. We might have one here and there that chooses to for a small portion of our time, but no one plays by themselves for the entire
That's a good point, Carrie, that you make about low vision kids struggling with personal space. That's absolutely true. They may get too close, or they are not close enough when they need to be, or things like that, for sure.
Well, and it brings up a point too, that while we're talking about the student who we may expect to have the social skill, the deficit in social skills, like a student who is blind, low vision, you also need to think about the kids around them, because even though they might have good social skills, they may not have good social skills when it comes to, you know, socializing with a student with that different. And that's where, you know, so that you need to take that into account. I mean,
our jobs are also to facilitate that their typical peers are going to include them in play, and teaching them what words to use if things are not if things are not going the way they think they should be going.
Right.
So like I said, with autism, and I guess if I go back to brain science, And I do that a lot. I'm a brain science girl. It's how I roll.
Oh, it's time to drink
sorry.
some water
time
while
to
Jenny's
talk about the
brain
brain.
science.
But in kids with autism, they actually, when they see people, they use the same part of their brain that they use when they see objects that aren't alive. So when, like, that's their brain chemistry. When they've done brain scans on kids with autism and show them people and objects, they use the exact same part of their brain. When you show a neurotypical brain, people versus objects, they use different parts of their brain to see that. So they don't automatically assume social skills because they see us as objects. We're just another object in their environment. And until they, get to know us, learn more about us or whatever, they probably will ignore you because you're just another object in their environment. And so we have to engage them, teach them how to engage, and those pieces so that we can help them. But I think that was so huge when I learned that. I was like, oh, wow, that makes so much sense now. And also, kids on the spectrum are also typically very visual learners. So if you have another like comorbid disability like low vision, with that's going to make it really hard for them to develop social skills because the one sense that's usually a strength for kids on the spectrum has now been impaired. So that's another piece too. So like I said, with autism, you have to think about the brain science piece of it, and that helps you make sense as to how to approach things. As he sees me as an object right now. I have to engage with him, teaching his peers, take a toy over and show him that's something he likes, or things like that to help engage. So there's that. So let's go on to ADD, ADHD. Yay!
So I'm laughing because I am one of those. I fit in that category,
and that fits under other health impairment in Indiana, any kind of a medical condition that's going to affect your educational progress. So talk about that a little bit there.
Well, I can definitely speak to the ADD piece of it, but I struggle with eye contact because I'm so distracted. Now, I actually am usually pretty good at continuing my conversation, but I may not look at you. I may turn and look at everything else. She's but also I lose my train of thought, and that's annoying. Ask her. And so those things can be impacted because if someone doesn't know me well and doesn't know, give me a minute, I'll get back to it, I'll get there. It can be very frustrating, or they can check out and not be like, okay, nope, I'm done with this conversation. So I'm not able, obviously I was able to manage and, but that's just, I can say
and
that
adults are way more polite than kids are.
Yes.
When it comes to stuff like that, they don't have the patience to sit around and wait for you to think of what you were going to say or come up with that word or retrieve whatever you wanted to say in your brain.
Or stop and go, what were we talking about?
Exactly.
Because that makes it seem like it wasn't important. And that's not the case. It's just, okay, my file cabinet just like exploded in my head. I don't know where, help me pick it up. Help me pick up where we left off. And and then if you want to add like the hyperactivity to that, I'm usually still physically present with that person. I don't get up. Well, I did get up and walk away from somebody today. But
did you know?
Well, I had there was a leak in the bathroom. We were, it wasn't like it was like
leak in the bathroom.
Yeah. So it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm done with you, and I did apologize.
Right.
It's somebody that. It was fine. But I did apologize. But anyways, if you add into that because guys, it's impulsivity, and they're not trying to be rude. They're not trying to not put forth effort, because in all honesty, chances are they're trying really hard and just not doing a very good job.
But I think the other thing that happens with impulsive behavior, the kids that the ADHD that have that major impulsivity, they blurt answers out. They are going to not wait their turn. They want to be the center of attention. They are so in that egotistical mindset of I'm the only one here, I'm who matters, that they don't see how their behavior impacts other people. They don't see themselves as disruptive until they're in trouble, and then they look at you like deer in headlights, and you say, why did you do that? And they say, I don't know, because they don't know.
Sorry, we have notes. I want to make sure we keep shutting down on us.
Oh no. So, but that impulsivity piece, so let me go back to brain science again. Sorry, I have to do this. Is that the little neurons in the ADHD brain fire more slowly than that in a neurotypical brain. So the little synapses, when those electrical impulses are jumping, they're going so much slower, which doesn't allow the child to filter distractions. So there's that happening. And then when you add the hyperactivity into there, they also can't stop and think before they act. Or at least it's incredibly difficult. So that's where we have to teach those strategies. A lot of times when a kid is on medication, it's to speed up those synapses. That's why they take a stimulant. So they speed up those synapses so that their brain can filter and they can focus. But like I said, whether or not they're on medication doesn't matter. They're still going to need strategies for how to stop and think before I act. So
and I'll be
that's
honest,
a huge piece.
I have to still, even though I'm treating mine, I still, when I'm having a conversation, have to remind myself, keep looking at them, keep looking at them, keep looking at them. And I do that because it was brought up to me that I don't. And so I will, as we're talking or whatever, I will, in my head, I'm like, nope, keep looking at them. Nope. And I'm not like staring. I don't do like, staring contest necessarily, but it's just the polite way, way to go. But I wanted to kind of explain too, when Jenny's talking about filtering, what that means is you're in a classroom and this kid is setting, say he's setting in the middle of the room, he or she, and maybe everybody's working in groups. This kid can probably tell you what every single group is talking about. So it's not a matter of like, they might be looking at you, but then say, wait, what did you say?
It's not that they aren't paying attention. They're paying attention to everything. Because and they can't decide what's most important and what they should focus on.
So they might be trying really hard, but I just want to point out, like, that's what we mean by filtering is everything else that's going on in the room, they can't, this girl can shut out everything. I can be sitting right here, and if she's doing something, I'm like, hey, hello, I want to talk to you, look at me. Right. And my brain doesn't filter.
Yeah. So and that one big thing I noticed when we go out together is she remembers what kind of car someone drove or what they were wearing, or didn't you see that thing on the wall, or and I'm like, I don't know.
But that also plays into, I guess, social skills, and that when we maybe meet someone again, it helps in the sense of like Jenny remembers like maybe more of what we spoke about, where I remember more of like, oh, hey, remember like this.
This is where we were.
This is where we were. Or this is we work well together in that sense.
Yeah, that can be that way for sure. Another important thing to talk about with ADHD, especially when that hyperactivity is present, is a lot of times their behavior will be immature. So they're always going to function about 2 years behind typical peers in maturity.
Well, and we often find kids that have been diagnosed with that, or have symptom. I don't know how you would
have a diagnosis.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like to play with kids younger than them.
Yeah, because it's more their speed, their interest.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change, unfortunately, as they get older. And so when they're a 9th grader in high school, they may still be acting like they're in 6th or 7th grade. When they are a senior, they may still be doing, and you're just expecting them to become more mature and more mature and more mature. And so my big caution, like I said, my opinion is mine and mine alone, not that of my school corporation. But that's why I hate it when people retain a child for maturity. Because if that child happens to be ADHD, that isn't going to help. They're always going to be 2 years behind typical peers in maturity, regardless. And you don't want to hold a kid back 2 times just so that they can be with kids
that's where,
you know, social skills wise.
Like the actual teaching, working on those social skills, like that would be, like we're talking about the why. Okay, that's not just something that comes with age and exposure, because
yes, and many kids with impulsivity issues are not going to understand the consequences. Also, other health impairment that falls kind of into the same category is if the child has fetal alcohol effects or fetal alcohol syndrome disorder. The kids with fetal alcohol can't predict consequence. So they may turn on the faucet in the sink with the plug-in, but they don't realize that if I walk away and leave it alone, it's going to overflow at some point. They don't realize that if I hit this person, they're going to tell on me and I'm going to get in trouble. They don't see it coming, and then they always are surprised when they're in trouble. So that's another piece to just think about, that, you know, some kids with medical diagnoses like that really, truly are not sitting at home plotting how to tick you off at school.
In all honesty, most of these kids who struggle with social skills, it's because they haven't been taught them specifically. They're not, and we mentioned it before, they do. Most people are able to learn it through generalization, and they might pick up some through generalization. But like,
or if an experience made enough of an impact on them, if they can be involved in an experience somehow that teaches a social skill, that's the best way.
But then, you know, but you have to work on that. You have to teach it to them. You have to actually say, okay, I'm going to show you, this is how you need to go ask your teacher for the work you missed yesterday, or, you know, something like that. This is how, if you need a new straw in the cafeteria, this is how you go about getting it.
Yeah, so like I said, with ADD, ADHD, the big thing to just remember is they're going to be distracted, they're going to have trouble with eye contact, so they're going to miss things. They're going to miss a lot of things, or it's not going to seem as important, so they won't remember it later. They have working memory issues a lot of times, and processing speed. So
sorry, I'm just,
because it's you.
It's me.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have slow processing. Working memory, yes.
Yeah. Probably not.
I'm like, what?
Don't. Yeah.
I don't know. Tell me more. Remind me.
Now, so I guess we're going to move on to the big one, right? And that's emotional disability. So there's 2 different kinds of emotional disabilities, right? You've got your kids that externalize behaviors, and you've got your kids that internalize behaviors. So your internalizing kids may be the ones that are very withdrawn. They might cry easily. They bottle everything up inside until they probably have the explosion at home.
Yes.
For the most
We hear
part.
that a lot. Like, they, you know, every day at home.
Right. They have tried so hard to keep it all together all day that they get home to the safe place, and that's when they cry, or they just want to curl up in a blanket. You know, that kind of thing can happen with those kids that internalize everything. Hey, Jennifer. So that's for those kids' social skills, they're not going to tell people when they're struggling with a social skill. They're just going to continue to withdraw back. You want to, for me, it's noticing those kids in the room that aren't playing with other kids, that are sitting by themselves, or maybe they go play off on their own, or swing on a swing alone, or they, they don't know how to interact without having issues, so they just won't interact.
So they avoid it.
Right.
And and it's not like, oh, I'm just going to avoid this particular child. You know, if I have problems with this particular student or this particular teacher, a lot of times it's, nope, I'll just avoid everybody.
And it will become, if it's not addressed, a control issue. We see that with kids with selective mutism, where they aren't going to talk, and no matter what you do, they're not going to talk. And trying to reward them to talk, or trying to praise them if they'll talk, or you know, even though they might talk up a storm at home, talking at school is not going to be their jam ever, because that's what they can control.
And so you work again, like I said, you're working on, okay, you can still teach them social skills about how to, I guess, in a more appropriate way, not talk. You know, putting your head down on your desk, and you know, so that's your first step. You know, because I'll be honest, if you're gonna, I'm gonna get this child to talk. No, we're not gonna. Okay,
Your best bet is to attempt to build a relationship with them around not talking.
Yeah, so you're going to build those social skills, saying, okay, hey, I get it, you're not going to talk, but let's work on, let's do it a little more appropriately. And how are we going to do that? But
for sure. And peer interactions will be a struggle for that kid unless they will talk to peers. So sometimes we have kids with selective mutism that just won't talk to adults, and they'll talk to their peers just fine. So like I said, it's a control issue when it comes to those kind of kids with emotional disability. Now, externalizing wise, go for it. I know you have tons of experience in this area.
Well, and hey, Patty, I was also, because I had said before, you know, that working with the students around the kids that do not have, it's going to start raining, guys. If you're watching this after Thursday, it's been raining all day, but apparently the Weather Channel needed to tell me it was going to rain. But this is definitely one of those instances where you're not just working on the social skills with that child who is externalizing their behavior, but with the children around them.
Yes.
Because those, you know, again, yes, that behavior is typically behavior that they might get in trouble for. So you start working on the social skills piece of, okay, let's find something that's more acceptable. I get that you're mad, but okay, what's another way for us to go about?
What are strategies we can do?
Your first step in teaching that working with this child is not necessarily to extinguish behaviors in a sense. It's to, let's find a more socially acceptable behavior. And so that would be like that social
replacement.
Yes, that would be where that comes in for that. And here's the thing. Those kids will often look like the ones that, oh my goodness, they sat at home all night trying to decide how they were going to, you know, get in trouble or how they were going to disrupt my class. And no, they oftentimes don't even recognize, like, I'm mad and this is what you do when you're mad. They don't necessarily recognize that it's unacceptable. It's not an appropriate behavior. And they don't necessarily look around and notice that their peers are looking at them going, what are you doing?
Well, and one common thread that I've seen through most externalizing kids is they're obsessive about what's fair. If they perceive that someone else, they can point out everyone else in the room who's not following the rules, but it's okay for them to not follow the rules.
They don't. It's a different.
They have a double standard when it comes to classroom discipline. So, because they are going to have a meltdown and go crazy if you don't discipline Susie for talking in class, but you talk to me for talking in class.
And, you know, we're sitting down here and chatting about this and this, like, guys, we could talk about this for days.
Like days.
This topic is so huge and so broad, and there's if you... I mean,
like I said, we'll probably end up spending other months on aspects of this later.
But here's the thing. Okay, we just have talked about all of these different disabilities that require different approaches and different reasons why.
Well, they have different reasons why they need social skills instruction.
And then you put on top of that, all of our verbal and nonverbal behavior changes depending on our environments.
Exactly.
Who's around us? Jenny and I talk very differently on the phone than we do, you know, at a restaurant or
Right.
at school. I mean, all of those conversations are different in the sense.
You learn socially appropriate behavior based on the environment you're in and who you're with.
Yeah.
I talk to my mom different than I talk to other people.
Yeah.
You know, there's some things I would never say to my mom. Hi, Mom, if you're there.
I don't think she's
Watch
here
it on
today.
replay. Yeah. But that's because I know what's socially acceptable around my mom and what's not.
Well,
And
I hope I can.
No,
well,
go
I
ahead.
can. I'm going to say this. It's about her. But like, for example, Jenny has some behaviors that annoy me. Quite honest, not like verbal. I mean, she has nonverbal behaviors that when we are out to eat, she rocks.
Yep.
And it gets to the
My
point
legs
that she's
shake.
like moving the table, and I'm like, okay, like Jenny, you're rocking,
And I don't
you're
know that
shaking
I'm
or
doing
something,
it.
and she'll be like, oh, and I mean, I can say that to her,
Right.
It's like when she starts moving the table around on me and stuff, I'm like, stop. And vice versa, she can be like, you're a mess today. You cannot stay on
I'm
topic.
just like, whoa, right
Yeah,
here.
right. But I mean, that too is, you maybe, a part of that is learning, teaching, okay, you are maybe one of their safe people. You're a good friend. You can help them work on, you know, because a lot of times they don't recognize it. You can think that you're like, I just told you. And they're like, what? You told me what?
Well, and a lot of times if we find a student really struggles with social skills and then we find that person that works really well with them, we're like, oh my gosh, we have to make sure that he's in her class next year or she's in his class next year so that they can still continue that, develop that relationship. And
Because that's where it starts.
Yeah.
It's going to start with one adult. It's going to start with one kid. And then it's going to, because it's funny too, even with my kids, I have a lot of my kids more than 1 year, and I have the same adults in my room, and you notice like year one they had their favorite, and there was 3 of us adults, and they you know, and this year I've noticed that okay, that's not the case. It's we're all equal. We're becoming equal, and that's great, because then that's when we start moving out of my classroom and expanding their, you know, helping them generalize. And so you have to start with that, and we're going to get into all this.
There's no
We're
way
just
that
too
in 4
excited.
lives.
We're just too excited about this. Like, this
that
is
we're going to be able to cover everything. But like I said, our in-between posts for the rest of the month are going to be tips, video that we find, suggestions, but we also want yours. So if you have a good suggestion for how to teach a social skill, if you have a social story to share, if you have a technique, if you have
or if you have questions about, we've said social story, you may not know what a social story
That's
is.
right.
Especially if you've not worked in a school or had, you know, been in a school. And I'll actually maybe put an example up
Sure.
this week. I'm sure I have some.
Yeah, because we're going to talk about next time is oh no, I don't know, I have the graphic in front of me.
Looks like
Yeah.
my working memory is not
we're
the only.
using my phone. I don't have
Or
my
one.
computer in front of us.
Okay.
So next week we're talking about the evidence-based practices, right?
Oh, look, we're live.
We are live. Yeah.
Look, alive within alive. No.
But I think it's evidence-based practices.
Okay. The how.
The how, that's it. I couldn't remember
Yeah.
which one of the W questions. It's really an H this time, but
Right.
yeah, that I used. So,
Yeah.
but next time we'll talk about evidence-based practices for social skills. I will say we're not going to endorse any specific program. Yep, we won't do that unless they want to pay us.
I know.
You
Hey.
call me. If we're going to get a
Yes.
little stipend or something, that's different. No. But we are going to talk about the evidence-based practices that you'll want to look for as you look for social skills curriculum and as you attempt to create social skills activities for your classroom or social skills in the home, either way. So
Because that's another important thing that we'll talk about. This can't just happen at school. This cannot just happen at home. It has to be in both. Like, because again, these kids cannot generalize. It's why they need to be taught these. So,
well, and that can be sometimes the reason why their social skills are poor, is because some of the social skills they've developed in the home environment might be survival skills in those environments. So we need to be really careful and cautious as we work with kids who've maybe been through trauma or who may not live in the best of circumstances, that we are empathetic to the fact that this particular behavior might be a survival skill for them at their house. So we need to be cautious, we need to talk to them, we need to really listen to them and see what that behavior is communicating to us, and not just judge the behavior on the surface. So,
and just if you haven't looked at that graphic, then we'll talk about the where, you know,
how we deliver the services in the school environment, and different ways and awesome approaches. I don't know, we might want to tap into an expert on that when we get to service delivery models.
Are you saying I'm not an expert?
No, not at all. I'm just saying 3 brains that day might be better than 2.
I'm just, and then we'll take Thanksgiving and we won't be going live, and then we'll do the win next week.
Yeah, I really wanted to throw that last one in there because I think I hear that more than anything as a special education director, is that my child doesn't have friends. I don't feel like they have friends. Do they have friends at school? When I ask about parent concerns, do they have friends here? Are they making friends? And it's huge, because I tell you, when you talk to, I think I heard this at a conference at some point, and I don't know if you were with me. I think it was at the EVD conference, the coolest conference ever, by the way, that no longer happens. But there used to be a conference in Brown County that we used to go to on behavior disorders, and I think this is something I heard in a session there. And she said, whenever we ask parents, what's your dream for your kid? They never, ever, ever, not once say, I hope they do great on their graduation exam. Parents say, I want them to be happy. And so social skills is super important if you're going to be happy in life. To know how to socialize. We need people. People need people. Right, Betsy?
Even the introverts.
Yes. We just recharge in different ways. Yes. So I think that's it for today. Is that it?
Yes, because we could talk forever and a day about this.
I know. So again, if you watched us live, we are so happy you were here watching with us. We love you, love you,
A lot of you were here with us today, and then go home and watch us. I know, you can't get enough.
You just can't get enough. That's right. Give us some hearts and thumbs ups. But those of you who are watching on replay, be sure to give us a hashtag replay and tell us something. Tell us what you liked or what you learned or something from this live, because like I said, we need your feedback. We don't want this to be a one-way conversation. Okay, so
we talk to each other all the time.
I know.
We don't need
more of us.
We don't need to tape it. We don't need evidence that we do this.
So we want to hear from you. Give us
other.
some comments, things you liked about it, things you learned, other questions you might have. Let us give you some feedback. Remember, we need to create that Facebook engagement so that you see our posts. So, and I'm going to put up some interactive posts this week too, over the next week, so that you guys can get involved in giving some of your ideas as well. Aw, thanks, Patty. All right, well, we love you guys, and we will see you next week right here on The Tall and the Short of It.
Bye.
Bye.